Hello, people!
Animals and creatures.
Welcome to Art for Well-Beings.
That's beings with an S. It's plural.
A show to end all shows. A time to watch, learn, listen.
Hear, see, feel, be, do, have.
Art, and more art.
Visual art, human art.
So, without further delay, let's give a warm welcome to our host,
Local celebrity.
Judy Gittleson.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yellow. Hello and welcome to episode number 6, Art for Well-Beings, brought to you by the color yellow. And I'm your host, Judy Gittleson. And I'd like to welcome my very well-beings and co-hosts, Mavis McClellan.
Thank you, Judy.
And Michael Buteau.
Thank you, Judy.
Welcome. In today's show, we're going to talk to you about paintings, about 3 paintings. We're going to show you paint and response. We're going to introduce you to a very well-being, Kurt Steckel. And right now I'm going to talk to you about Paint by Puzzle. And this is a project that we do at Art for Well-Beings, and it's actually a kit. And I take these panels and I outline across them. And it's this one that I'm looking at is 9 panels, and each individual fills in their panel entirely, and then we put them back together, and it creates one painting all together. And what's really neat is the individual is such an important part of the whole, and the whole painting would be remiss without the individual. At the same time, it makes a great composite, kind of like a quilt. And we're going to show you how these are made. I'm going to bring you to the studio and show you how these are made. And we'll be back in a minute. And each one of these, I just outline right across from it. But when we come back from this film, I'm going to talk about these paintings that Michael and Mavis and I have. And you can see that each person's hand lends to the squares, lends to the painting. And even if I gave you blue and the person next to you blue and you painted right next to each other, it wouldn't look the same.
Judy Gittleson, I'm Judy, and today we're going to make a paint by puzzle painting, okay? Start to finish.
And we're back. And so you see how the paint by puzzle was put together, and then you didn't see the individuals filling in the squares on the paint by puzzle. And Mavis, we're going to start with you since that was the one that was featured in the film. And can you tell us a little bit about this paint by puzzle painting?
I'd love to. This beautiful paint by puzzle
Let me help you hold it.
was
Yeah.
it was made by the Mountain View post senior class using micaceous iron oxide, which is this substance that was used to outline the
Micaceous iron oxide is made from hematite ore. It's a great golden paint. It's marvelous, and you can mix it together with colors. Why I used it on this one is because it creates a real strong ridge. And then the Mountain View High kids come to me every week, and they have special needs. And Michael, let's see your piece too.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful piece made by the Hope Services, and it's also for the special ed kids. And as you can see, you see this kind of nice black line pattern, and it's actually interesting. It's interestingly enough tar gel, and it's just, you can kind of see how it kind of sticks out, and it's a very nice pattern. It outlines the whole painting.
Okay, and this piece that I have here is done by the Gun Post Senior Program as well. And this one is also created with tar gel. And you can see the raised ridges, and it's a really nice syrupy, drippy material. And tar gel was originally created for the Jackson Pollock film by Ed Harris. I'm going to tell a little story, or we're going to go to a film, and then we're going to come back. This is this week's Paint and Response film. Hello, and welcome to Paint and Response. Today, we're going to be working on branches, branching out. And I'm going to show you a drawing exercise that's really useful, and I use it a lot. Then I'm going to work with a couple of really exciting textures. One is a paint and one is a gel, so let's begin. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the branches. Here's my subject. And I'm going to take my pad of paper, and normally I would be painting toward myself, but I'm going to paint toward you, and I'm going to do a blind contour drawing, meaning I'm going to follow the edges of the wood, but I am never going to look at my board. So here I begin. If you can follow me, all I do is I keep my eye on the object, and what this does is it really helps me pay attention to the object without getting distracted about what I'm doing. And it's helpful all the time because a lot of drawing is just looking. And so I'm studying, where is the wood going? How does it relate? And let's see what I've got. Perfect. Today's exciting paints are one of my favorites, micaceous iron oxide made of hematite ore, a very gritty red-based paint, or with a red little shadow. And we're using coarse molding paste, a really rough, gritty paint, a gritty gel. And our colors are pyrrole red, red oxide, quinacridone burnt orange, my favorite chromium oxide green, turquoise phthalo, and Hansa yellow medium. Okay, can you get a good look at that? All right. Now we know our subject is branches, and in order to paint these branches, we are going to not paint the contour like I just did the drawing. We're going to start by painting the grain. And what that does is it again removes us from the object. It removes us from our outcome, and it allows us to pay attention to what we're focusing on by focusing on it. So here I go. I'm going to start by painting the grain, the texture, and I'm going to use this micaceous iron oxide to lead me through. Then I'm going to come and I'm going to work with this coarse molding paste, and I can mix these all together, and this is going to give me a lot of texture. Look at that. Isn't that nice? The coarse molding paste. And then now I'm going to look at the painting, and I'm going to swoop forward just like on a cooking show to one that I've gone a little forward with, a little further with, and I'm going to work on not painting the object, but here's my example of it.
I'm going to work on painting the negative space. I'm going to work on painting outside of the object. And I'm going to find the object by painting the atmosphere. And here I've got a couple of these beautiful greens and some micaceous iron oxide, and look at that. And I got to keep looking at the object. And I'm finding it by painting the negative space. Thus far, I have not really painted the object yet. I've painted the veins of the object. And look, the wood is surfacing. And the underpinnings of this paint and response are about branching out. How do we find something by not looking at it? How do we find an object by painting what's around it? By painting the interior of it? By paying attention to it in ways that we might not normally pay attention to it. Our mind has a lot of fixation on what does it look like rather than what's it embedded in. What does the atmosphere give us? Here come the sticks. Here come those branches. So I think there's something about defining something by painting everything else, or defining something by its context. And that's what I think we're working on today. So now I've defined a bit of the atmosphere, and then in the final I get to come back and work on the sticks. So here we go, and I've got this marvelous quinacridone burnt orange. Look at that. And these things can all mix together is the nice thing, so I've got a nice texture. Isn't that cool how the sticks are coming out, the branches are coming out because of painting around them. And in wood, like in nature, there's so many different colors, so I can blend together all these different colors. And I don't think I truly used a real brown, so I've made the browns out of reds, greens, yellows. And brown is the combination of red, yellow, and blue. Isn't that neat? And there we are, an interesting way to look at branches.
And that was this week's Paint and Response. And you can send in your response to our Facebook page, Art for Wellbeings, or you can come to the studio and paint with us. And thank you, our great sponsor, Golden Paints. And right here, these sprouts that we're holding, these Paint by Puzzle sprouts, were all done in response to the previous episode's sprouts. So please send us your branches and visit us in the studio. Now we get to talk to you about Kurt Steckel and I in tandem. Thank you. That was a great film by Audrey Daniel, and that was Kurt Steckel and I, and we were each doing our own art form to Picasso's Old Guitarist. I think that's the name it was on there as well. And now we get to talk about paintings. And behind Michael and Mavis and I are 3 brand new portraits I've done. We have Daisy and myself and Greg, and we're going to talk through them. But what I want to say as a group, what I'm working on here is reaching the energetic level of a person, and a portrait, and also about how they are in the world. So we're going to start with Daisy right behind Michael. And Michael, do you want to say something that brought your attention or that was interesting on that painting?
Yeah, Judy. It's the first thing I saw was these kind of the lines, and they're just kind of sticking out like branching out like this episode, and it's just really nice how you can see each portion is kind of bits of branching out kind of sticks or kind of shape.
Rays,
yeah,
maybe?
rays, that kind of thing, and it's even kind of bright. So
It has a bright feeling.
Yeah.
And then Mavis, what were you noticing about that painting?
I noticed that it kind of has 2 sides to it. Kind of just like everybody's personality has different sides to it. There's like a sharp, precise, well, it's all pretty precise, but there's a sharp, straight kind of side. And then that's like reaching out. And there's the other side is very soft, and there's a lot of curls, and it's kind of more calm and maybe introverted or.
And I like how the hair has a sweep and a curl, and it harkens the curls on this side, and maybe the eyelashes on that side are pretty like those rays, like how we were talking about the rays. Mm-hmm. Painting is really interesting because you can paint a feeling. You can paint what you are feeling or what you are, and what's really neat about painting people you love and know is that you can see them in different lights and see what you think of them. So it's kind of like an exercise where you follow what you're working on, but you also get to reflect on what you are thinking and how you perceive that person. So that's interesting. And I think we'll move on to this painting. This is a self-portrait. And what I worked on here, or what I see here, is in painting, oftentimes you can do the same shape in more ways, like this wave around the mouth, the curl of the hair. There was one other place around the eye. There are 3 areas where it repeats this one shape, and that's kind of like a symphony in a painting. That's the thing. That's the way you can do the da 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 da. Okay, Mavis, what were you noticing about this piece?
We noticed that in this one, there's also kind of 2 sides to it. Like this side is there's a lot of reds and oranges and yellows, and then this side is blue and green and soft, and there's kind of a sort of feeling of water and like flowing throughout the entire thing. The shapes really flow together, and like the wave shape that you
And maybe like this eye is almost extroverted and that one's kind of interior.
Yeah, this side is kind of calmer and this side is determined.
And Michael, did you notice something of this painting?
yeah, with Mavis saying how it's 2-sided, kind of connected to that, it has a sort of schizophrenic feeling to it. Like it kind of reminds me of someone I know. But so yeah, it's the 2-sided and the schizophrenic, because you have the calm and the kind of wild, crazy, bright feeling.
And one thing I like is how the mouth looks like a boat on the ocean, and then the nostril holes look like the sea, like looking through a porthole. And I like the theme that's kind of has this movement of an ocean and the waves. Okay, let's move over to the painting behind me of Greg. And Mavis, do you want to talk about your observation on that one?
Yeah, I noticed that it's really just like a complex portrait. There's so many parts to it, and it's so like 3-dimensional, and you can look through the nose and kind of look into a different dimension almost. It's kind of like transparent, but.
And what I like about it is how one side of it is very finished. The other side looks like deconstructed, like I've eroded the material rather than layered it on. And with paint, again, you can create all these amazing textures, especially using golden paints. And Michael, did you have an observation on this one?
Yeah, I did. It's cool how it goes along with the others, how it's also two-sided, and like people have been saying, and how it's complex. It has a certain complexity to it, and it's very kind of like it's almost you can see into the nose, like it kind of gives you a different kind of view.
I really liked how you could see in the nose that there's this structure that I created that you can go in the interior. And I also liked how the spiral on the top, that it made it so you could, it formed itself. It was like the top of the nose was the piece where that emanated from, but then it moved on. We're going to go now to a really great film by you, Michael. Or actually, I shot the film, but you edited it, and you put it together with Ty's music, right?
Yeah, and it's Highway 5.
Will you give us like 30 seconds? And that was a film with Ty Mayer's music, and the title of the film is Ovaries. I hope I got that right, Ty. And Ty is performing at the Art for Wellbeing studio on March 19th, and he's a great musician. That was a film that I did, and Michael, you edited, and it was really fun to see that. So here we are back, and today's theme is yellow. And Mavis, before we get it, or Michael, why don't you tell us about the color yellow?
Yeah, well, it's kind of nice because it has some interesting origins like Germanic and European. And then you kind of see it move throughout the world to these different meanings. Like on one side of the world is courage, on another side you might see hope. It's kind of very different, and it also could mean afraid, but in this case, I like to think that it means happy or bright, as we've been talking about.
And what's interesting about that is, like the show, there are these two sides, not duplicitous, but different. That one color can mean, in one part of the world, hopeful and sunny, and here it can mean cowardly. Isn't that interesting? And then Mavis, you wanted to talk about this dress a little bit.
Yeah, this dress was designed by Henry Rosenthal in the 1940s. And during the 1940s, because of the war, there were a lot of restrictions on fabrics and dress designs. But he was able to use the fabrics kind of conservatively and create these really simple but elegant designs. And he actually mass-produced 2 million of them in 1945. And made $8 million off of them.
Wow. So he sold them for how much, and how much did they sell for
He
at
sold
retail?
them from like $15 to $40.
Wow. And I got this one for $18 now. And we are ready to say thank you for being with us. We had a great episode. This was our number 6, and we welcome you to send some artwork to our Facebook page or come visit us in the studio. And we're going to see you the next time. And Mavis and Michael, let's get up and dance. Ready?